If they're not firing Jerome Powell, they're replacing the entire system and using him as the fall guy. Because when the foundation changes, the symbol must fall. And right now, the $2.5 billion renovation scandal isn't about office upgrades. It's a pretext for removal. Not just of Powell, but of the institution he represents. Let's unpack this quietly engineered takedown. For the past week, a political firestorm has been building around the Federal Reserve's flagship renovation project. Internal watchdogs and White House officials are now calling it lavish, possibly illegal, and in violation of long-standing federal construction statutes. At the center of it is a price tag, $2.5 billion, earmarked not for critical systems or emergency upgrades, but for aesthetic enhancements, private executive spaces, and sprawling rooftop features that read more like a luxury resort than a public institution. OMB Director Russell Vought sounded the alarm first. Then the House Republicans followed. Now internal Fed staff and affiliated watchdogs are echoing those concerns, quietly suggesting Powell may be stepping down, and claiming credible sources have confirmed it's already on the table. But Powell hasn't resigned. Not officially. And that's what makes this moment so dangerous, because what we're seeing isn't a scandal. It's a setup. A carefully timed sequence designed to create maximum pressure on the face of the central bank, just as the foundational architecture of that bank is being quietly replaced behind the curtain. Because while headlines focus on dollar signs and office decor, the real shift is technological. And it just went live. On July 14, 2025, the Federal Reserve began the ISO 2022 transition across Fedwire, enabling tokenized settlement, AI tagging, and programmable rails at scale. This wasn't just a back-end update, it was a systemic pivot. With that update, every U.S. interbank wire is now transmitted using a protocol capable of carrying far more than just numbers. It carries metadata, transaction tags, smart contract instructions, embedded identity signals. And here's the part no one talks about. This new messaging format doesn't just streamline value, it standardizes transparency. Every field, every tag, every instruction is structured for interoperability across banking, compliance, and communication layers. This isn't just fast money. It's precise money. It's programmable at the protocol level, giving future institutions the power to embed logic directly into financial flows. Think about the timing. Powell, still in office, is now engulfed in controversy. The White House is reviewing options. Certain political voices are now adding fuel, a signal that pressure is building from multiple fronts. And meanwhile, the rails for a post-Fed monetary architecture just came online. That is not a coincidence. That's coordination. This isn't about punishing Powell for poor oversight. It's about making space. Because the role Powell once played managing inflation optics, steering rate expectations, defending dollar supremacy, no longer fits the system that's rising beneath him. In the ISO 2022 world, there are no press conferences, no speeches about soft landings, no need to guess what comes next, because value flows become programmable. Monetary rules become embedded in code. And for the first time in over a century, the U.S. financial system won't require a central figure to guide expectations. It will have infrastructure that performs autonomously. So what happens to the man at the top of the old system? He gets nudged out, not with outrage, but with optics. A scandal large enough to erode public trust, but vague enough to avoid martyrdom. $2.5 billion in questionable spending is just the right size, large enough to enrage taxpayers, abstract enough to avoid direct blame, and politically useful enough to let both parties claim the high ground. And while Powell has said he intends to finish his term, set to expire in May 2026, that statement came before the OMB dropped its report, before the FHFA floated resignation, before the White House launched an active review of the Fed's conduct. You don't need a headline to read the playbook. You just need to watch the pattern. The renovation scandal isn't the story. It's the distraction. The real story is the transition, because transitions like this don't happen loudly. They happen legally, optically, and in plain sight, hidden under the cover of updates that most people overlook. They aren't announced in press releases. They're coded into system upgrades, because what Powell represents is no longer compatible with where financial infrastructure is heading. This new monetary framework, built on tokenized treasuries, real-time clearing, AI-enhanced visibility, and programmable messaging standards, doesn't rely on trust. It runs on precision. It doesn't revolve around personalities. It flows through protocols. And Powell's departure, when it comes, will not be about scandal. It will be about evolution. That's why the backlash feels sudden, but the replacement feels scripted. Behind every leak, there's intent. Behind every investigation, a roadmap. And when the most powerful unelected figure in American finance becomes obsolete, the system doesn't resist. It upgrades. This isn't political theater. It's protocol-level change disguised as politics. Now here's what that means for you. For decades, the monetary system was buffered by personalities. Central bankers shaped narratives, moved markets, and built confidence through language. But the new system isn't built on speeches. It's built on code. We're entering an era where monetary rules are no longer interpreted. They're executed. Where settlements are no longer delayed. They're instant. Where compliance isn't debated. It's embedded. And while that shift may sound sterile, it's not dystopian. In fact, it opens the door to something long overdue: clarity. A system where the rules are known, the rails are visible, and the bottlenecks of bureaucracy finally give way to streamlined, intelligent automation. This isn't about surveillance. It's about sovereignty at the infrastructure level. Because when you know the rules of the game, you can play better. And when power is no longer hoarded in black box institutions, but structured through open standards and interoperable systems, it becomes more accountable, not less. That's why this matters. Not because of Powell, not because of politics, but because of the infrastructure being built beneath it all. Infrastructure that could finally level the playing field. For entrepreneurs, that means faster payments and smarter contracts. For creators, that means instant royalty splits and borderless income streams. For communities, that means programmable trust layers and transparent value exchange without the gatekeepers. And for everyone, it means the chance to build on rails that were designed for inclusion, not exclusion. That's the real shift. Not toward control, but toward clarity. So whether Powell resigns tomorrow or completes his term, the deeper story has already been written. The rails are live. The infrastructure is changing. And for the first time in decades, the people watching from the outside may finally get access to what was once locked behind closed doors. If this helps you cut through the noise and see the opportunity beneath the chaos, then subscribe now. Because the institutions may be shifting, but those who understand the system that's coming next will be the ones who shape it.